Jordan Hayes walked slowly down the long hallway of the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. The lights were dim. Most of the staff had gone to their quarters hours ago. Only Jordan and a few others remained, working late into the artificial night. She entered the main conference room and tossed her datapad onto the table. The screen showed the results of today's council vote: 27 against, 16 for, 8 abstentions. The relief mission to Proxima B had been rejected. Again. Third time's not the charm. I see, said Alan Blackwood from the corner of the room. The security chief's face looked tired in the blue light of his monitor. Millions will die, Jordan said simply. She sat down heavily and ran her fingers through her short gray hair. We have the supplies. We have the ships. We have everything they need sitting in our warehouses, and the council says no. Olivia Winters, her diplomatic advisor, looked up from her own work. The Zelvan representative called it an expected evolutionary adjustment. And the Morrigan Collective abstained, Alan added, as always. Jordan looked at the two people who had been with her through 7 decades of frustration. 73. Years of humanity trying to be a good galactic citizen. 73 years of being treated like children by species who had been in space when humans were still figuring out how to make fire. What if we just go anyway? Jordan asked suddenly. Olivia blinked. Without approval, that would violate at least 6 different treaty provisions. And give the council the excuse they've been waiting for to put sanctions on us, Alan said. Jordan stood up and walked to the large window overlooking the Centauri night. The massive council building dominated the skyline, its ancient stone, towers standing alongside newer additions from each member species. The human section added 73 years ago still looked new compared to structures built thousands of years earlier. Do you know what the Arcturian ambassador told me today? Jordan said without turning around. He said they agree with us about the Proxima relief mission. They know we're right, but they voted against it anyway because the Zelvans would be upset if they didn't. That's politics, Olivia said gently. No, Jordan replied, turning to face them. That's cowardice. The next morning, Jordan called an emergency meeting of the entire Earth delegation. 30 men and women filed into the conference room, confusion on their faces. I've been authorized by the president to share something with you, Jordan began. She nodded to Alan, who activated a secure channel on his datapad. The face of President William Foster appeared on the main screen. His expression was grave. Men and women of the Earth delegation, he said. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. After consulting with Earth's government and the leaders of all 17 colony worlds, we have made a decision. He paused, taking a deep breath. Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a coffee cup. In the corner, Jordan saw Olivia close her eyes briefly. We did not make this decision lightly. The president continued. For 73 years we have tried to be good partners. We have followed their rules, we have compromised our values. We have watched people die who could have been saved, technologies suppressed that could have helped millions, all in the name of galactic harmony. His voice grew stronger. No more. We will forge our own path among the stars. We will help those who need help. We will trade with those who wish to trade fairly. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. And we will do it without asking permission from species who see us as barely evolved primates. The president's eyes found Jordan through the screen. Ambassador Hayes, you will deliver our formal withdrawal during today's emergency session. Then you and your staff will return to Earth immediately. The Navy has dispatched ships to bring you home. 3 hours later, Jordan stood before the full Galactic Council. Representatives from 51 spacefaring civilizations watched her with expressions ranging from confusion to alarm to smug satisfaction. The floor recognizes Ambassador Jordan Hayes of Earth, said the ancient Zelvan who served as this cycle's council leader. His skin rippled with blue patterns that showed his irritation at the humans' interruption of scheduled business. Jordan touched the badge on her chest one last time. The small blue and green Earth symbol had been her identity for nearly 20 years. She removed it and placed it on the speaker's podium. Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately, she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. We will no longer be bound by directives that compromise our values and hinder our ability to help others. Humanity will forge its own path among the stars. The chamber erupted in shouts. The translator system struggled to keep up with the flood of languages. The council leader's skin flashed with bright red patterns of shock and anger. Jordan turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, Alan and Olivia and the rest of the Earth delegation followed. None of them looked back at the chaos they left behind. Outside the council building, a crowd had gathered. News traveled fast on Centauri Prime. Journalists from 100 worlds pointed cameras and recording devices at the humans. "Ambassador Hayes, what does this mean for the stability of the Orion Arm?" shouted one. "Will Earth honor its existing trade agreements?" called another. Jordan paused at the top of the steps. "Earth will honor all agreements made in good faith. We are not abandoning our responsibilities or our friends. We are simply choosing to fulfill those responsibilities in our own way, on our own terms." 6 hours later, the Earth delegation boarded 3 Navy ships that had arrived in orbit. Jordan took one last look at Centauri Prime through the viewport as the ships prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Olivia asked quietly, standing beside her. Jordan watched as the massive council building grew smaller in the distance. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know staying wasn't right either." "The Proxima relief ships are already being loaded," Alan said, checking his datapad. "They'll launch within 24 hours of our arrival on Earth." Jordan nodded. "At least we can do that much now." The Navy ships engaged their FTL drives and Centauri Prime vanished in a flash of light. As they accelerated toward Earth, none of the humans aboard realized what they had just set in motion. They couldn't know that their decision to leave would send cracks through the very foundation of galactic civilization. They couldn't predict that within months, the carefully balanced power structure that had kept peace for thousands of years would begin to unravel. They only knew they were going home, free to make their own choices for the first time since humanity had joined the stars. And for now, that freedom felt like hope. 6 weeks after Earth's withdrawal, the galaxy began to change. On the bridge of the relief ship Hope, Captain Susan Clark watched as her crew loaded the last medical supplies into the cargo holds. The ship hovered in orbit around Proxima b, a planet wrapped in dark clouds and violent storms. Below them, millions of people waited for help. "All supplies secured, Captain," reported First Officer Ben Harris. "We can begin dropship operations in 30 minutes." Susan nodded. "Contact the surface. Tell them help is coming." Ben smiled. "It feels good to finally do this." "Without asking permission," Susan added. She looked out at the planet, remembering how many times Earth had tried to send aid through proper channels. How many people had died waiting for the Council to approve what should have been simple. The communication panel chimed. "Captain, we have an incoming transmission. It's from an Arcturian vessel." Susan frowned. The Arcturians had voted against the relief mission in the Council. "Put them through." The screen lit up with the face of an Arcturian commander. The alien's silvery skin caught the light as he spoke. "Captain Clark, I am Commander Zell. My government has sent me with additional medical supplies and doctors experienced in treating plasma storm injuries." Susan stared in surprise. "I thought the Arcturian Federation opposed this mission." Commander Zell's expression was hard to read, but his voice carried what might have been embarrassment. "The Federation has reconsidered its position. We have also suspended our participation in the Council pending administrative restructuring." The news spread quickly. Within days, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Sirius Mercantile Guild had withdrawn all financial support from Council projects. 3 smaller species had formally resigned their positions. The carefully balanced system that had existed for thousands of years was coming apart at the seams. On Earth, humanity embraced its newfound freedom. The restrictions that had limited technological development were cast aside. The solar defense fleet expanded rapidly, incorporating designs that the Council would have deemed too aggressive. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked through the construction bay of the Mars orbital shipyard. Around her, 5 new warships took shape. Workers moved in zero gravity, welding hull plates and installing systems that had been forbidden under Council regulations. Without Council interference, we've improved reactor efficiency by 42%, she told the shipyard manager who walked beside her. And our quantum communication network now spans all 17 colony worlds, operating at speeds the Council claimed were impossible. The manager nodded. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we're not held back. Kate touched the hull of the nearest ship. The metal felt cold under her fingers. Just make sure we use this power wisely. Freedom comes with responsibility. 6 months after the withdrawal, President Foster received troubling reports in his office beneath the North American continent. The holographic display showed red hotspots spreading across the galaxy map. What am I looking at? He asked General Patricia Ramirez, who stood at attention on the other side of his desk. Conflicts, sir, Patricia replied. Without Council peacekeeping forces, the Zeta Reticuli trade routes have fallen to raiders. 12 worlds report critical resource shortages, and species that have hated each other for millennia are moving their war fleets into position. The president studied the map with growing concern. They're saying our withdrawal was the cause of this? The catalyst, sir. The Council was flawed, but it was holding things together. Now the center cannot hold. Gabriel Okafor, the diplomatic secretary, stepped forward. We've received requests for help from 26 worlds, Mr. President. Most of them are former Council members who voted against us repeatedly. And the Proxima refugees? The president asked. Safe, thanks to our intervention, Gabriel replied. But they're the exception. Most vulnerable populations are suffering as the safety nets disappear. The president's gaze returned to the hologram. We wanted freedom to do good on our own terms. We never intended this. Intentions aside, Mr. President, said General Ramirez, we may have just triggered the collapse of galactic civilization. The situation grew worse over the following months. The hegemonic alliance formed from 3 powerful former Council members. They began taking control of smaller systems along the galactic rim, claiming to restore order but really expanding their territory. On the colony world of New Montana, Governor Ryan Parker stood on his porch, watching the night sky. 3 different faction fleets had passed through the system that week, each demanding resources or loyalty. What are we going to do? Asked his wife Laura, standing beside him. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders. We're just farmers and miners. We can't fight off a galactic power. I heard the Morrigan Collective has started harvesting stars, Laura said quietly. Whole solar system's gone dark. Ryan didn't answer. The Council had kept the Morrigans in check for centuries, preventing them from using their planet-destroying technology. Now those restrictions were gone. Back on Earth, refugee ships arrived daily. Species fleeing conflicts in their home systems came seeking safety. Earth's resources strained under the pressure, but humanity's basic values wouldn't allow them to turn away those in need. Jordan Hayes, now director of the newly formed Diplomatic Corps, worked around the clock to manage the crisis. She hadn't slept properly in days when Alan Blackwood found her in her office reviewing reports at 3 in the morning. You need to rest, he told her. You can't fix the galaxy if you collapse. Jordan looked up from her desk. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. This is our fault, Alan. The galaxy is coming apart at the seams and we pulled the thread. We couldn't have known, said Olivia Winters, entering with 3 cups of coffee. Couldn't we? Alan challenged. We knew the Council was the only thing preventing a dozen interspecies wars. We knew they'd been keeping the peace for millennia before we achieved spaceflight. What's done is done, Jordan said firmly, accepting the coffee from Olivia. The question is, what happens now? The answer came 3 days later. A massive ship appeared in orbit around Mars. Its design was unlike anything humans had seen before. It bore the symbols of 15 different species, former enemies who had once fought bitter wars against each other. Admiral Sullivan immediately placed the fleet on high alert. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Forces. State your intentions. The response came in perfect English. Admiral Sullivan, we come in peace. We represent 15 civilizations who wish to speak with Director Jordan Hayes. What is your purpose? Sullivan demanded. We have a message. For humanity, the alien voice replied. You broke the galaxy. Now help us fix it. In Geneva, Jordan Hayes received the transmission with a mixture of hope and fear. The aliens were asking for help, not threatening war. But the task they proposed seemed impossible. How could humanity rebuild a system they had helped destroy? I'll meet with them, she told her staff. If there's even a small chance to make things right, we have to try. As her shuttle prepared to leave Earth's atmosphere for the meeting on Mars, Jordan looked out the window at her home planet. She couldn't know that this meeting would mark the beginning of a new era in galactic history. She couldn't predict that humanity's greatest challenge and greatest contribution still lay ahead. She only knew they had to try. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal, the Galactic Council officially dissolved. Without humanity's diplomatic bridge building and the departure of key member species, the ancient institution had become empty. Its final session ended not with formal proceedings but with delegates simply failing to return after a lunch break. The galactic archives containing the collected knowledge of 51 civilizations were abandoned. The Great Council building on Centauri Prime stood empty, its halls silent for the first time in thousands of years. Jordan Hayes stood on the observation deck of the massive alien ship, now docked at the Mars colony. Behind her stood representatives from 15 different species who called themselves the Concordat. Before her were Earth's leaders, gathered to hear what these former enemies wanted. You must understand our position, said the Talari diplomat, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. For millennia, the Council maintained balance between our peoples. Without it, ancient hatreds are returning. We fought wars that nearly destroyed our civilizations, added the Pelleran representative, her crystalline form glittering under the lights. The Council's rules kept us from fighting again. Now there is nothing to stop us. President Foster stepped forward. The Council was flawed. It blocked progress. It let people die when we could have helped them. Yes, the Talari agreed. It was deeply flawed, but it was all we had. Jordan cleared her throat. What exactly do you want from us? The 15 aliens looked at each other. Then the Pelleran spoke again. We want you to help us build something better. Not a new council, but something different. You humans see possibilities that we cannot. You imagine new ways when we are bound by tradition. Admiral Sullivan frowned. Why us? We're the ones who left. Precisely, the Talari said. You had the courage to break a system that didn't work. Now help us create one that does. On the other side of the galaxy, things were getting worse. The hegemonic alliance had taken control of 37 star systems. Their warships blockaded trade routes. Their soldiers enforced harsh rules on conquered worlds. The Morrigan Collective continued their stellar harvesting. They drained energy from stars, causing them to dim and disrupting the ecosystems of orbiting planets. 3 inhabited worlds had already been evacuated as their suns failed. On the colony world of New Montana, Governor Ryan Parker received a transmission from Earth. It came directly from Director Hayes herself. We're sending help, she told him. The destroyer Jefferson will arrive within the week. It will protect your system from unwanted visitors. Ryan felt relief wash over him. Thank you, Director. We've been worried that the Alliance might target us next. Hayes nodded on the screen. We're establishing defense perimeters around all human colonies. But we're doing more than that. We're working with the Concordat to create a new way for species to cooperate. 2 days later, the Jefferson arrived in orbit. Its commander, Captain Frank Mitchell, invited Ryan to tour the vessel. She's the most advanced ship in the fleet, Frank said with pride as they walked the corridors. Reactor technology that the Council would never have allowed. Weapon systems that can stop anything the Alliance might send. And if the Morrigans come? Ryan asked quietly. Frank's smile faded. Then we evacuate. Nothing can stop them if they decide to harvest your son. Back on Earth, Operation Restoration was taking shape. Unlike the rigid hierarchy of the former council, the human-led coalition operated with flexible rules and practical goals. Aid ships were dispatched to war-torn regions. Diplomatic teams traveled to mediate conflicts. Research vessels developed solutions to ecological disasters. Gabriel Okafor, now working directly under Director Hayes, coordinated the effort from Geneva. "We've established secure zones in 17 former council systems," he reported. "The refugee situation is stabilizing." "And the hegemonic alliance?" Hayes asked. "Still expanding, but more slowly. They're watching what we're doing. I think they're worried." Hayes nodded. "They should be. We're offering an alternative to their control." Not everyone on Earth supported the plan. Some felt humanity should focus on protecting itself, not trying to fix a galaxy it had helped break. Protests were held in major cities. Politicians demanded that resources be kept for Earth's needs. Jordan faced the Earth Senate in a special session. "I understand your concerns," she told them, "but isolation is not an option. What happens in the galaxy affects us all. If the Alliance continues to grow, they will eventually come for us. If the Morrigans keep harvesting stars, they may eventually target our sun." Senator Grace Miller stood up. "Director Hayes, you let us out of the council. Now you want to create something very similar. How is this different?" "The council imposed one set of rules on 51 different species," Jordan replied. "We're creating a system where each civilization can follow its own path while still working together on shared problems. The Concordat isn't about control, it's about cooperation." Far from Earth, aboard the science vessel Curiosity, Dr. Nathan Brooks made a discovery that would change everything. His team had been studying the Morrigan star harvesting technology, trying to find a way to reverse its effects. Nathan stared at his data screens in shock. "This can't be right," he muttered. He ran the calculations again. The results were the same. He hit the emergency communication button. "This is Dr. Brooks. I need to speak to Director Hayes immediately. It's about the Morrigans." Hours later, Nathan presented his findings to Hayes, President Foster, and Admiral Sullivan. "The Morrigans aren't just harvesting energy," he explained. "They're creating something. These energy patterns show a massive construction project near the galactic core." He pulled up images on the screen. "They're building a device of some kind, and based on these readings, it's a weapon." Admiral Sullivan leaned forward. "What kind of weapon?" Nathan took a deep breath. "If my calculations are correct, it could destabilize space-time itself. It could tear apart the entire galaxy." The room fell silent. Finally, President Foster spoke. "Why would they build such a thing? They live in this galaxy too." "The Morrigans evolved in a different dimension," Nathan said. "According to their own history, they're just visitors here. Maybe they plan to return home before using it. Or maybe they've decided this galaxy isn't worth saving," Hayes said quietly. Within days, the information was shared with the Concordat. Even the hegemonic alliance was contacted. For the first time since the council dissolved, representatives from all major factions agreed to meet. The meeting took place on neutral ground, a space station built in the aftermath of the last great Galactic War. Jordan Hayes represented Earth. Around the table sat beings who had been enemies for longer than humanity had existed. "We have verified Dr. Brooks's findings," said the Alliance commander, his metal exoskeleton clicking as he moved. "The Morrigan weapon is real. It threatens us all." "Then we must stop them," the Pelleran said. "But how? Their technology is far beyond ours." All eyes turned to Jordan Hayes. "No single species can stop the Morrigans," she said. "But together, with our combined knowledge and resources, we might have a chance." She stood up and looked around. The table. "1 year ago, we broke the galaxy by walking away from a flawed system. Now we have the opportunity to build something better. Not just to stop the Morrigans, but to create a future where all our civilizations can thrive." For a moment, no one spoke. Then, one by one, they began to nod. The fight against the Morrigans would not be easy. Many lives would be lost. Worlds would burn. But in that moment on that station, Something new was born from the ashes of the old council, and humanity stood at its center, not as rulers, but as the spark that lit the way forward. The plan to stop the Morrigans came together quickly. Representatives from 23 species worked alongside humans in a hidden base beneath the surface of Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. They called their alliance the Concordat, a name suggested by Jordan Hayes. "We need to learn exactly how the Morrigan weapon works," Jordan told the gathered leaders. "That means we need to get close to it." "Their defenses are impenetrable," said the Talari diplomat. "No ship has ever entered Morrigan space and returned." Admiral Sullivan stepped forward. "No ship they've detected. We've been developing stealth technology that might get past their sensors." The Alliance commander's metal exoskeleton clicked nervously. "Even if we can approach the weapon, how do we stop it?" Dr. Nathan Brooks activated a holographic display showing complex energy patterns. "We can't destroy it directly, but we might be able to disrupt the space-time field they're generating." 3 days later, a small fleet gathered in orbit around Mars. 5 human vessels with experimental stealth systems. 2 Peloran crystal ships that could absorb and redirect energy. 3 Alliance warships with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. And 1 ancient Tolari vessel containing technology so old that the Morrigans might not recognize it. Captain Susan Clark, commander of the human ship Pioneer, addressed her crew. "This mission has a 20% chance of success. Anyone who wishes to stay behind may do so without dishonor." No one moved. Susan nodded, pride swelling in her chest. "Then let's go save the galaxy." The journey to the galactic core took 2 weeks. The ships traveled through hidden jump points, avoiding detection. They passed dead stars where the Morrigans had harvested energy, leaving only cold darkness behind. On the final day, they gathered for one last briefing. Dr. Brooks showed them updated scans of the Morrigan weapon. "It's bigger than we thought," he said grimly. "The energy readings are off the charts. They could activate it at any time." Susan studied the images. "What happens when they do?" "Based on our calculations, it will create a cascade effect. Space-time will begin to tear apart, starting from the core and spreading outward. Within months, the entire galaxy will be uninhabitable." The Alliance commander's voice was unusually quiet. "Why would they do this? What could they possibly gain?" "We intercepted some of their communications," Admiral Sullivan replied. "They've been in this galaxy for thousands of years, but they consider it a failed experiment. They plan to return to their home dimension and collapse ours behind them." The Peloran crystal form shimmered with emotion. "Billions will die." "Not if we stop them," Susan said firmly. The fleet approached the galactic core carefully. The Morrigan defenses were everywhere: automated weapons platforms, energy nets that could fry a ship's systems, and patrol vessels that never seemed to sleep. Pioneer led the way, its stealth systems operating at maximum capacity. Behind it came the other, ships hiding in its sensor shadow. They moved slowly, taking 8 days to cover a distance that would normally take hours. Finally, they reached visual range of the weapon. It hung in space like a massive spider web made of dark energy, spanning the distance between 3 dead stars. At its center pulsed a sphere of blinding light. "That's it," Nathan whispered. "That's what will destroy everything if we don't stop it." The Talari ship moved into position first, broadcasting signals that mimicked Morrigan communication patterns. The ancient vessel was their Trojan horse, meant to get close enough to jam the weapon's control systems. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. The Talari ship approached the outer edge of the web without triggering alarms. Then suddenly, energy beams lashed out from hidden platforms. The Talari ship's shields flared and died. The vessel broke apart, its crew ejected in escape pods. "They were ready for us," Susan said, her heart sinking. "We've lost the element of surprise." Admiral Sullivan's voice came through the comm. "Move to Plan B. All ships, battle formation." The fleet broke stealth and accelerated toward the weapon. Morrigan vessels appeared from nowhere, sleek black ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The space around the weapon became a chaos of energy beams and explosions. 2 Alliance warships fell in the first wave. 1 Peloran vessel managed to absorb a massive energy blast and redirect it at a cluster of Morrigan ships, destroying them. But the Peloran crystal cracked from the strain, leaving the ship drifting helplessly. Pioneer pushed through the battle, taking heavy damage. Susan held tight to her command chair as the ship shuddered around her. "Shields at 12%, reported Ben Harris, his face streaked with blood from a cut on his forehead. "We can't take another direct hit." "Get us closer to the center," Susan ordered. "Dr. Brooks needs to deploy his disruption device." Nathan worked frantically in the science bay, making final adjustments to a small probe. "The calculations are off," he muttered. "The weapon's energy output is fluctuating. If I can't get the timing right, this won't work." The ship rocked again, as a glancing blow struck their port side. "Shields failing," Ben called out. "Hull breach on deck 3. Susan hit the comm button. "Nathan, we're out of time. I need 2 more minutes. We don't have 2 minutes. Launch now or we all die for nothing." Nathan looked at his incomplete calculations, then at the image of the weapon on his screen. He made a decision and hit the launch button. The probe shot from Pioneer's Bay, streaking toward the center of the web. Morgan ships immediately fired on it, but it was too small and fast to hit easily. It reached the glowing sphere and disappeared inside. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere began to pulse erratically. The energy web shimmered and warped. "It's working," Nathan breathed. "The disruption field is destabilizing the weapon's containment system." The Morrigan ships broke off their attack and retreated toward the web. They seemed to be trying to stabilize the weapon. "All ships, pull back," Admiral Sullivan ordered. "Get to minimum safe distance." Pioneer turned and accelerated away, its damaged engines struggling. Behind them, the energy web collapsed inward. The glowing sphere expanded rapidly, then imploded. With a silent flash that temporarily blinded their sensors, when the screens cleared, the weapon was gone. In its place was a swirling distortion in spacetime, a controlled collapse that affected only the immediate area. "We did it," Susan said quietly. "We stopped them." The remaining ships regrouped at the edge of the core region. Of the 11 vessels that had started the mission, only 6 remained. But they had succeeded. The galaxy would survive. As Pioneer limped back toward Earth, Susan recorded a message for Director Hayes. "The Morrigan weapon has been neutralized, but we've learned something important. The different species work together perfectly. Despite our histories, despite our differences, we found a way to cooperate when it mattered most." She paused, looking out at the stars passing by her viewport. Maybe that's what the galaxy needed all along. Not a council that forces everyone to follow the same rules, but a concordat that celebrates our differences while uniting our strengths. 5 years after humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council, Jordan Hayes stood once more in a chamber filled with representatives from across the galaxy. But this wasn't the council chamber on Centauri Prime. This was Nexus Station, a massive habitat in neutral space built through the combined efforts of 27 species. The circular room had no head table or raised platform. All seats were arranged equally around a holographic display showing the galaxy. Jordan watched as delegates from former enemy worlds talked in small groups, sharing ideas instead of threats. "Hard to believe we've come this far," said Olivia, Winters, now Jordan's chief advisor. 5 years ago, the galaxy was falling apart. "And now we're putting it back together," Jordan replied. But differently, the Nexus Accord was about to be signed. Unlike the rigid rules of the old council, it created a flexible framework where species could work together on shared problems while respecting their differences. President Foster entered the chamber, escorted by Admiral Sullivan. They joined, Jordan near the galaxy display. "Is everything ready?" the president asked. Jordan nodded. "All 27 founding members have approved the final text. Even the hegemonic alliance has sent observers." "And the Morrigans?" "Still isolated in what's left of their territory. The containment field around the core region is holding. They can't build another weapon." Admiral Sullivan studied the holographic galaxy. Small green dots showed concordat outposts and bases, spread across hundreds of star systems. 6 months ago, I told you this wouldn't work. I was wrong. Jordan smiled. We all had doubts. The old council failed despite thousands of years of tradition. Why should we succeed? Because we're doing it differently, said President Foster. The council tried to make everyone the same. We're celebrating the differences. A soft chime sounded, calling the delegates to their seats. Jordan took her place between the Pelleran and Talari representatives. The president remained standing, at the center of the room. Friends, he began. 5 years ago, Earth withdrew from the Galactic Council. We didn't know it then, but we started a chain reaction that nearly destroyed civilization. The old system collapsed. Wars broke out, and the Morrigans nearly unmade. The galaxy itself. He paused, looking around the room. We take responsibility for our part in that crisis. But from that chaos came opportunity. The chance to build something better. The Pelleran delegate's crystal form shimmered as she spoke. The council was like a wall holding back floodwaters. When it broke, destruction followed. But walls always break eventually. What you humans showed us was how to channel the waters. Instead, how to use their power rather than simply contain it. A holographic document appeared above the galaxy display. The Nexus Accord ready for signing. This agreement doesn't force uniformity, Jordan explained to the assembly. It creates platforms for cooperation, disaster response, trade facilitation, scientific research, conflict resolution, each handled by specialized groups of interested species. Participation is voluntary, decision-making is shared, and innovation is celebrated rather than regulated. One by one, the delegates placed their hands on touchpads at their seats, adding their signatures to the document. When the final signature was recorded, a soft cheer went through the room. Far from Nexus Station on the colony world of New Montana, Governor Ryan Parker and his wife Laura watched the ceremony on a view screen in their home. Remember when we thought we'd lose everything? Laura asked, holding his hand tightly. Ryan nodded. 3 different factions demanding our loyalty. The Morrigan harvest ships getting closer every day. And now, he gestured out the window where a new hospital was under construction. Teams of alien workers collaborated with human engineers, combining their different building techniques. Now we're part of something bigger than the old council ever was. On Earth, Dr. Nathan Brooks stood before a class of students at the newly established Concordat Academy. The lecture hall contained young people from 12 different species, all studying together. The Morrigan weapon taught us something important, Nathan told them. In their attempt to destroy us, they ended up uniting us. The differences that once divided us became strengths when we worked together. A Talari student raised one of his 4 hands. But humans were the ones who broke the council in the first place. How can you be sure this new system will work better? Nathan smiled. Because we're not trying to control the galaxy anymore. The old council was about maintaining a status quo. The Concordat is about exploring possibilities. Aboard the Pioneer, now fully repaired and upgraded, Captain Susan Clark prepared for another mission. Her crew contained members of 5 different species, each bringing unique skills to the ship. Course laid in, Captain, said Ben Harris from the helm. The Andromeda colony is expecting us in 3 days. Thank you, Lieutenant, Susan replied. Let's not keep them waiting. As the ship accelerated to faster than light speed, Susan thought about how much had changed. 5 years ago, she had led a desperate mission to save the galaxy. Now she commanded a ship of explorers, pushing the boundaries of known space. Back on Nexus Station, the signing ceremony concluded with a simple meal shared by all delegates. Jordan found herself sitting beside the Arcturian ambassador, who had been one of the first to leave the council after Earth's departure. I've been meaning to ask you something, the Arcturian said, his silvery skin reflecting the soft lighting. Why did you decide to help rebuild when you were the ones who left? Jordan considered the question. Because walking away wasn't enough. The old system was broken, but simply breaking it further wasn't the answer. We needed to create something new. And have you created something that will last? Jordan looked around the room at species who had been enemies for thousands of years now, talking and laughing together. I don't know. The Concordat isn't perfect. It will face challenges we can't predict. But it has one advantage the Council never had. What's that? It's designed to change, to adapt, to grow. The Arcturian nodded slowly. A very human concept. Perhaps, Jordan agreed, but one that seems to work for everyone. As the celebration continued around her, Jordan thought about the long journey that had brought them here. From her decision to withdraw from the Council, to the threat of galactic destruction, to this new beginning. The galaxy had indeed unraveled after humanity's departure. But from those threads, a stronger, more flexible tapestry had been woven. Not a single, rigid structure that could collapse all at once, but an interconnected network of relationships that could adapt and evolve. And at its heart was humanity's greatest gift to the stars. The simple, powerful idea that unity doesn't require uniformity, that a galaxy of differences could be its greatest strength.